All right, welcome to the how to set up the prospect to appointment flow. I just want to give you a quick run through and how I go about doing this. And I'm going to start with this little checklist, which is right next to this video, so you can kind of copy and paste that into your own place where you're going to start writing things. And you might think you just jump right into Fix Your Funnel, you jump right into Infusionsoft and just build this flow out. But what my experience has been is that it's best to start with your questions and answers. So I like 4 to 6 questions in my assessment or survey, as it's called, instead of Fix Your Funnel. And these questions come into 3 categories. So let's go ahead and look at those. We're going to have a sorting question. That's always the first question, because that way, even if that's all the answer, we go from there. All of these are multiple choice. My next 1 or 2 questions is going to be info that I may want to know in order for me to be able to better understand who this prospect is and their situation. And then there's the thought-provoking questions. So let's go ahead and start with the sorting question. So of course, I'm coming from my perspective. You're going to interpret what I'm showing you and do it for your own. But my first question is, how do you currently use texting in your business? And what I'm actually doing here is I write the answers. These are also going to be my tags. So I'm trying to keep them fairly succinct. And I want them to make sense standing on their own inside of Infusionsoft, as well as making sense to the person as they go through. And that's just to make it easier for me to create the assessment. Not required, but that's what I like to do. Okay, so you see my answers are, I use texting, I do not use texting yet, I do not want to use texting. Now, I know there's a lot of hardcore rules that people have for naming tags. My philosophy on the whole thing, and I won't spend too much time on this, but just so that you understand why I would name a tag, I use texting, is I want the tag to make sense in and of itself. Some people talk about abbreviating tags. I'll use categories to kind of give me a feel for what these tags mean. If I'm using a tag in a functional way, I might name it differently for that. But when I'm just trying to basically classify a contact and different properties about them, I'll just use really plain English because it takes less brain power for me to understand what that tag means. So try and make sure your tag will stand on its own, independent of context, because usually you don't have that when you're looking at it later on. Okay, so those are the first ones. I'm doing these, you'll notice all my answers are on one line with commas separating. I'll show you why that is in just a moment. So my next question is, how long have you been in business? This is purely an informational one. It tells me quite a bit about where a prospect is and helps me know which strategies are probably going to be more appropriate for them. That's why we ask it. My answers are pretty straightforward. Again, these tags, these are tag names, but they'll also be answers that they'll tap on. They all stand on their own and they tell me quite a bit without having to do any interpretation or remembering. Okay, so now we're going to thought-provoking questions. And my first one is, do you sell during an appointment? Now you may say, well, that's not a very thought-provoking question. But what I'm trying to get them to think about is if they sell by appointment, we have some really, obviously we're talking about it right now, some really strong strategies. So I want to find out if they sell during appointments or they don't. So those are my answers. My next question is, do you have sales conversations as part of your business? Now, the reason I state it that way too, again, is I'm trying to get them to think through some stuff. Maybe there's a simpler way to word it, but I want to word it that way so that they think about this idea of sales conversations, because that's something I bring up frequently, because it's a real key to making more money in a business, is understanding that sales conversations are a critical part, and they do happen. So my 2 answers that I allow people to have are, I have sales conversations, I do not need to talk with prospects, and those 2 answers tell me a lot about the person's perspective and where they are. So this is it is thought-provoking on their part. I do want them to start thinking about some things in preparation for an actual conversation. But at the same time, it also helps me to know their mindset and if I'm going to be able to help them as easy. Some people are going to be much more difficult to help because of their mindset. And so mindset type question is really useful for you to be able to know, okay, how's this conversation going to need to go in order for me to help them get to a buying decision? So my next question, what it does is, this is really even more so a mindset question. How much would you like to increase profits in the next 12 months? You may say, well, Ryan, that doesn't sound much like a mindset. Let's look at some of the answers and see what we're saying here. So I want us to hold steady. That's a perfectly reasonable expectation. But that tells me about where they are and what they're trying to achieve. I want to increase profits by 10 to 20%, 20 to 50%, 50 to 100%. Each of these represents what the person believes is possible as much as it is what they want, right? So people are going to temper what they want, what they say in an answer to a question with also what they believe. And so it kind of gives me an idea of mindset-wise, where are they? How much do I need to work with them to help them to recognize that they can increase profits dramatically if they haven't been using the technology and strategies that we offer? Now, my final question really isn't a thought-provoking question. I could probably pop this back up into the info area because I just need to make sure that they're using Infusionsoft if they're going to use Fix Your Funnel. If they're using some other software, I'm going to need to point them to one of our other businesses. So which software do you use to manage your marketing and sales? I'm, of course, with Fix Your Funnel looking for them to answer Infusionsoft, but depending on what their answer is, then I can redirect them. So that's more of an informational one. So now that we've got all our questions written out and we've got our answers, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and then paste all of the answer lines right down here. I'll show you why in just a second. I won't worry about the last one. So what I'm going to do is just get this onto one line because I'm going to create all of these tags at once. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so we'll copy this line here, and now I'm going to pull in Infusionsoft. So I've gone to the Add and Edit Tag page, and then while you're here, what you're going to do is you're just going to paste in that full line of all of our answers separated by commas. And while it is true that inside of our mobile surveys, as we go creating these questions, we can create tags there. It's just so much faster to do it this way, so that's why I'll do it. So I'll pick a category, and then I'll click Add Tags. I'm not going to do that because I already created these tags before, but that will create all of those tags for us, and we'll be all ready to go. Okay, now that we've created our tags, let's go back to our checklist. We wrote up the survey assessment answers and questions. We created our tags. Now we need to do our video tracking. Now I'm going to do the video tracking in my case here because that's part of what I want to do. So I'm going to come over here to Automation Tools, and I'm going to go to Video Tracking, and I'm going to click Add a Video. I'm going to choose my host. In my case, I'm using YouTube. And you see right here, if you go to the page that the video is on, this is called the video ID. So I'm going to copy that video here. I'm going to paste that in there. I'm going to create the tracking video. Okay. So I only need 2 tags at most on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Quick Tracking Settings. I would like to know that they started watching it, and that's 75%. So create the Quick Tracking Settings. I'm going to get a little confirmation to make sure. Okay, perfect. So now I can just click Save Changes, and I'm ready to go. So I'll do the same thing for my other video, and then we'll come back to our checklist. So I just set both of those up in the Fix Your Funnel video tracking, and then I need to get my appointment core link. Now I already created mine. I'm not going to go through how to create one. I've got mine locked in right over here, so I'm going to copy this link address. It's a trackable link that I already had set up. I'll just put a little thing there. Okay, now I need to create my survey. So we're going to go ahead and go to our mobile survey. I've already named mine, Texting for Business Assessment. And I'm going to pick my Welcome to the Survey. Click Save Changes just to make sure that's in there. Just to thank them for taking the quick assessment. Again, kind of implying they're going to do it. And tell them to tap Start after they watch the video above. Great. Now I'm going to get on my, I'm going to go ahead and put in my other video while I'm here. So I'm going to do the thank you for taking the survey. You can book your appointment by going here, and I'm just going to make that link the same as that. So I'll just highlight it, and then I will click on the link there. Nope, that's the same thing, so we're in good news. And then I can go ahead and save that. Perfect. Okay, so I've got my video, I got my link in there. Now let's start adding the survey questions. And I'm always going multiple choice. You have other options, but that's my preference just because it is easier to get the data where you want it. So now I'm going to be going back and forth. So I'll get my first question, copy that, paste it here. Now you'll see how quick it goes. I can now, I know what my answer is. It is, the first one is I use texting. So I'll just paste that in there. There it is. It already populates the answer. Boom, done. Now go to the next one. And these are going to be all pretty close, so it should go pretty quick. There we go. And then I do not want to use texting. Don't know why you'd be silly and not do that. Now you see I've got all the answers for this question. I can save this question, and there it is. Okay. So now next what I'm going to do is I'll just go in and add the next one. I won't do all of these. I'll just do 2 just so you can see how quick this goes. And this one will be even easier for me to fill in because I know these answers right here. It goes 0 to 1 years in business, and then I can save the answer. And then I can go 1 to 2 years in business, save the answer. So you see how quickly this goes as you start going through the process. And then it was 5+. And there you go. You see how quickly it is to add in all these questions. So I'll continue on throughout the rest of my questions, and then my assessment will be all ready to use. So now I want to stick it into Campaign Builder. So I'm going to create a Campaign Builder message, which, by the way, that's our next step, is we need to trigger the text to the prospect. You can do this in automated conversation in the final message, just throw that trackable link there, or use a Campaign Builder message. So I'm going to use a Campaign Builder message. Thanks for your interest. Please take this quick assessment to allow me to know how to help you better use texting to increase your profits. And now I'm going to stick in my trackable link. Texting for Business Assessment. It's this one here. And I'll stick it in there and create the message. Oh, forgot my title. That would be helpful. And I need to pick the right number. There we go. So now you guys know the drill on this. I'm going to go into my campaign. Okay, and then however we want to start off the campaign is fine. Then we'll just drop this into the sequence. And then I'll come over and get my great. So that is ready to go. And now this is all ready to send off that text when it comes in. We might have this come in again off of a form being filled out, a lead ad, a text in, any kind of things where we're capturing a lead and we're prepping them to go into an appointment. Okay. And of course, in this sequence, once they've actually set the appointment, we would, pull them into that appointment being set. I'm using appointment course, so I'm going to get a little tag applied, and I'll have some data information I can use in here to do my sequence. I'm not going to go into all that because that's basic campaign building, but I wanted to show you that process that we do for triggering the things. And of course, the next step is going to be to test. So I want to test that process from beginning to end, push people through steps or whatever to make sure that all of it goes through, and I can look at it in context and see if that makes sense. And then finally, we're going to track, monitor, okay, are we getting the quality of appointments that we wanted, and then adjusting, adding in filters, accelerators based on the data that we're getting from our salespeople that are doing the appointments, or ourselves if we're doing those appointments, and how well are people converting into customers or clients as a result of that process. So hopefully this video helps you to better understand how you can set up this flow very quickly and enjoy the benefits of moving prospects to appointments more effectively.